The apex tower gleamed under the vibrant morning sun, a colossal spire of polished glass and steel that pierced the sky. Its grand opening day had finally arrived, a moment years in the making, and the air buzzed with electric anticipation. Inside its opulent lobby, a symphony of activity played out. Hundreds of people, titans of industry, influential investors, and eager media personnel milled about, their voices a low hum of excitement. Champagne flutes clinked, cameras flashed, and the scent of expensive coffee mingled with fresh floral arrangements. This wasn't just a building, it was a statement, a monument to ambition, innovation, and unwavering success. At the epicenter of this triumphant spectacle stood Miss Eris, the visionary CEO of Pinnacle Industries. Her posture was flawless, her designer's suit impeccable, and her smile, radiant and confident, seemed to illuminate the entire room. This tower, the Apex Tower, was more than just a project to her. It was the physical embodiment of her wildest dreams, a testament to her ruthless determination and unparalleled acumen. It was a declaration to the world. Miss Aris had arrived, and she was here to reshape the skyline, both literally and figuratively. Every detail had been meticulously planned, every contingency accounted for. This day was meant to be flawless, an unblemished coronation of her career. Then, a sound. It began as a low, guttural groan, a deep metallic rumble that seemed to emanate from the very core of the building. It was not a normal structural sound. It was something profoundly wrong, like the tortured cry of a massive, wounded beast. The hum of conversation died instantly. A sudden, violent lurch followed, a jarring tremor that rippled through the polished floors and up the spines of everyone present. People stumbled, grasping at nearby tables. Champagne flutes toppled, their contents splashing crimson onto pristine white tablecloths. A collective gasp, sharp and terrified, tore through the silenced crowd. Miss Eris's brilliant smile shattered like delicate glass. Her emerald eyes, usually so composed, darted wildly around the vast lobby, searching, questioning, a primal fear beginning to etch itself onto her features. What was that? What was happening? A young assistant, barely out of college, materialized at her side, his face a ghastly shade of pale. His usually crisp uniform now seemed rumpled, his breathing ragged. He stammered, his voice barely a whisper, thick with undisguised panic. The assistant said, "Miss Eris, it's the main express elevator. The one to the Sky Lounge. It's stuck. It's completely stopped, somewhere between the 50th and 51st floors." A cold icy dread snaked its way up Miss Eris's spine. The main express elevator. The showpiece. The jewel in the crown of the Apex Tower's advanced technology. It was designed to whisk VIPs and investors to the dizzying heights of the Sky Lounge in mere seconds, offering unparalleled views and a thrilling experience. Now, it was nothing but a glittering, vertical coffin. A trap, a symbol of everything that could go wrong. The grand opening, her triumph, was crumbling before her very eyes. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was dangerously low, a stark contrast to her earlier effervescence. "Miss," Eris said, "how many people are inside? Are they safe? Give me details, quickly." Her demand sliced through the assistant's terror, forcing him to focus. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. The assistant said, "5 key investors, Miss Eris. The ones flying in from overseas. And Mr. Gian, the lead architect for the entire project. They were on their way to the Sky Lounge for the signing ceremony." The signing ceremony. The multi-billion-dollar deal. The culmination of years of relentless negotiation and strategic maneuvering. It was scheduled for precisely 9 o'clock. Miss Eris glanced at her exquisitely crafted wristwatch. It was 9 o'clock. Every single second that passed now was a dagger twisting in her gut. If those investors, the very foundation of her future empire, did not reach the Sky Lounge. If they felt unsafe, if they felt trapped, the deal could vanish into thin air. Miss Eris's reputation, her company's entire future, her very legacy, hung precariously, dangling by the thinnest of threads. Without another word, Miss Eris spun on her heel and marched directly towards the main elevator bank. The celebratory atmosphere had evaporated, replaced by a growing knot of anxiety. A small, anxious crowd had already gathered. Engineers, distinguishable by their bright yellow hard hats and the hurried, worried expressions on their faces, rushed around. Wires, thick and colorful, snaked across the polished marble floor like startled serpents. Tools clanged against metal panels with a jarring, frantic rhythm. Sweat glistened on their foreheads, betraying their mounting panic. Mr. Kaito, the usually unflappable head engineer, ran a trembling hand through his thinning hair. His face was a mask of desperate worry, a stark contrast to his typical calm, collected demeanor. He spoke into a crackling radio, his voice strained. "Mr. Kaito said, still no response from inside the cabin. We're trying to bypass the primary control system, but the emergency protocols are holding firm." Miss Eris's voice, now sharp as broken glass, cut through the growing chaos. Miss Eris said, "What is the problem, Mr. Kaito? Fix it. Now. I don't care what it takes. Just fix it." Mr. Kaito spun around, his eyes wide and bloodshot with exhaustion and fear. Mr. Kaito said, "Miss Eris, we genuinely don't know yet. All our diagnostics, our state-of-the-art sensors, they all show a complete system failure. It's like the main brain of the elevator just shut down. Completely. We've tried everything in our playbook. We can't even get auxiliary power to the car. It's a total blackout." Another engineer, Mr. Jiro, joined them, shaking his head, his face equally grim. Mr. Jiro said, "The emergency brakes are holding. That's the only good news. The passengers are safe, at least for now. But we can't get it to move. Not up, not down. It's completely inert." Miss Eris's gaze flickered to her watch again. Each tick of the second hand resonated like a heavy hammer blow against her temples. The investors, trapped and undoubtedly growing agitated, were losing patience. The multi-billion-dollar deal was not just collapsing. It was evaporating into thin air, taking her reputation and her future with it. She could feel the stares of the other guests, their whispers like venom, their initial excitement having curdled into open doubt and speculation. This was a public humiliation, a disaster unfolding live. Her voice, though calmer, held an undeniable edge of raw desperation. Miss Eris said, "I need those investors out, and that elevator working, in the next 5 minutes, or this entire launch, this entire tower, is a failure, and so am I." Her words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threats and immense pressure. The engineers flinched visibly. 5 minutes. It was an impossible, utterly ridiculous demand. Their faces, already etched with panic, now twisted into expressions of pure, unadulterated terror. They exchanged helpless, defeated glances. They were at a dead end. In a quiet, unnoticed corner of the bustling, now chaotic lobby, away from the frantic rush and the clanging tools, stood Mr. Silas. He was the janitor. His faded blue overalls, stained in places with industrial cleaner, seemed to absorb all the light around him, making him almost invisible. He held a well-worn mop, its head resting on the polished floor, and a metal bucket filled with soapy water. His hands, gnarled and thick-palmed from decades of tireless, physical labor, bespoke a lifetime of humble service. His face was a map of gentle wrinkles, testament to years spent observing the world from its overlooked fringes. He had been cleaning this magnificent, gleaming building for weeks, Ever since the final construction dust had settled, he had seen everything. He had heard everything. The hushed negotiations, the excited blueprints, the nervous laughter of the construction crew, the ambitious pronouncements of Miss Eris herself. But no one ever truly noticed him. No one ever spoke to him beyond a curt, "Good morning." He was simply part of the background, a silent shadow moving through the vibrant spaces, making them shine. Mr. Silas watched the engineers now. He watched them with a quiet intensity that went far beyond mere observation. He watched them check complicated panels, pull out thick bundles of wires, and stare with furrowed brows at their blinking computer screens. He saw their growing frustration. He saw their complete lack of understanding. He had seen this kind of panic before, many times. He had seen countless machines break down. He had seen many intelligent, educated people fail to fix them, overwhelmed by their own complex theories. He took a slow, deep breath, the familiar scent of cleaning solution, a comforting anchor in the rising tide of panic. He had arrived at dawn, long before the first dignitaries. He had polished every inch of these marble floors. He had emptied every single trash bin. He knew this building, not from blueprints, but from its very bones. He knew its subtle creaks, its deep sighs, its hidden currents of air. He even knew the unique, almost musical hum of the mighty express elevator. He knew it better, perhaps, than these engineers who only saw diagrams and digital readouts. He knew it from the inside out, from the ground up. He saw Mr. Kaito throw his hands up in a gesture of utter despair. Mr. Kaito's voice cracked. Mr. Kaito said, "It's no use. The safety protocols are completely overriding everything. We can't even force a manual descent without risking serious damage to the car, and worse, injury to the passengers." Miss Eris gripped her hands into tight fists, her knuckles white. Her jaw was clamped shut, a vein throbbing faintly in her temple. She was losing control. This was not just a nightmare. This was her public, undeniable undoing. Mr. Silas, without conscious thought, without even a flicker of hesitation, stepped forward. His voice, when it came, was soft, almost a whisper, yet it cut through the frantic noise with surprising clarity. "Mr. Silas said, excuse me, Miss Eris. I think I know what the problem might be." Everyone stopped. The cacophony of frantic activity ceased. All heads turned. All eyes swiveled towards him. A janitor, speaking to the all-powerful CEO, about an intricate elevator failure that had baffled a team of highly trained engineers. The very idea was preposterous. It was absurd. Miss Eris stared. Her emerald eyes, still clouded with panic, narrowed into slits of disbelief. She looked him up and down, taking in his worn overalls, his dusty work boots, the humble mop he still clutched. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her voice, when it emerged, was dripping with undisguised contempt and biting sarcasm. "Miss Eris said, you, a janitor? You think you know what top engineers, with years of specialized training and millions in equipment, can't figure out? Fix this elevator in 5 minutes?" She then let out a sharp, mocking laugh. It was loud, piercing, and utterly cruel, echoing through the stunned silence of the lobby. It was designed to humiliate, to put him back in his place, to crush any foolish notion he might have had of competence. The surrounding engineers shifted uncomfortably, looking away, embarrassed for the old man. Mr. Jiro even chuckled softly, a nervous, pitying sound. Mr. Kaito simply shook his head, a genuine look of sadness for the janitor's misguided boldness etched on his face. This was not the time for such foolishness. But Mr. Silas did not flinch. His gaze, though gentle, was unwavering, steady. He had heard worse. He had faced harder challenges in his long life. He had seen many powerful people stumble. He had seen many humble people rise. He gripped his mop handle a little tighter, a small, almost imperceptible gesture of quiet resolve. He knew something they did not. He knew a secret that would make Miss Eris's cruel laughter die in her throat. A secret that would not only stun every engineer in the room, but also profoundly change Miss Eris's perception of value, expertise, and the quiet dignity of overlooked knowledge. He knew how to fix it. He knew exactly what had gone wrong. And he knew, with absolute certainty, he could do it. In 5 minutes, the clock was ticking, and the multi-billion-dollar deal, along with Miss Eris's entire future, depended on this unassuming man. The air hung heavy with the aftermath of Miss Eris's mocking laughter. It vibrated in the grand lobby, a harsh, discordant note against the backdrop of silent panic and trapped helplessness. Mr. Silas felt the weight of their collective judgment, the dismissive stares, the quiet pity from the engineers. Yet, beneath his calm exterior, a quiet resolve solidified. He understood that sometimes, the most insurmountable problems often stemmed from the simplest, most overlooked causes. He had always been an observer, a silent, unassuming presence moving through the hidden arteries of buildings, collecting fragments of knowledge from the unnoticed corners of the world. He had a deep, almost intuitive understanding of how things worked, not from blueprints, but from daily interaction, from the constant hum of life in a building. Miss Aris finally ceased her derisive laughter, though her face remained contorted in a sneer of pure disdain. Miss Aris said, "Do you even comprehend what a redundant safety system entails, old man? Do you have any grasp of hydraulic pressure principles? Or the intricate logic gates that govern a cutting-edge elevator's central processing unit?" Her words were designed to belittle, to underscore the unique and vast chasm she perceived between her world of advanced engineering and his world of mops and buckets. Mr. Silas's gaze remained placid, unwavering. He knew that engaging in a verbal sparring match would be a fruitless endeavor. Words, at this moment, were secondary. It was action that would speak the truth, that would silence the doubt. He simply turned his head, his eyes meeting Mr. Kaito's, conveying a silent, urgent plea for a chance. Mr. Kaito blinked, caught between his CEO's disdain and the janitor's unexpected earnestness. He glanced at Miss Aris, who, with a dismissive flick of her perfectly manicured hand, seemed to grudgingly concede. Miss Aris said, "Oh, let him look. It will serve as a valuable lesson, won't it? A lesson about knowing one's place, about overstepping boundaries." 5 minutes. You boldly declared, Janitor? By all means, enlighten us. Show us your miraculous solution. Her voice was still heavily laced with sarcasm, dripping with the expectation of failure. Mr. Kaito, though clearly hesitant and bewildered by the turn of events, pointed towards a heavy, unassuming metal door set into a far wall. Mr. Kaito said, "It's back there, Mr. Silas. But I must inform you, we've systematically checked every accessible panel, every single diagnostic port. Everything is completely locked down by the main system's emergency protocols." His tone suggested it was a futile exercise, but he complied nonetheless. Mr. Silas offered a small, appreciative nod. He walked past the bewildered engineers, their eyes tracking his every move, a mixture of curiosity and disbelief painted on their faces. They wondered what conceivable knowledge a man like him could possess that had eluded their collective expertise. He pushed open the heavy door with a quiet creak. Inside, a narrow, dimly lit corridor snaked its way along the building's spine, leading to a wall that bristled with an intimidating array of blinking lights, intricate wiring harnesses, and complex circuit boards. It was a nerve center, a labyrinth of interconnected technology that controlled the building's vital functions. He did not rush. His movements were deliberate, unhurried, imbued with a quiet confidence born from years of familiarity. His keen eyes, accustomed to spotting minute details in dim light, scanned the intricate panels. The engineers, he knew, had focused their attention on the grandiose main computer systems, the flashy digital readouts, the complex algorithms. Mr. Silas, however, perceived the building in a profoundly different way. He saw it not as a collection of inert components, but as a living, breathing entity. He sensed the flow of its unseen energies, its subtle weaknesses, its inherent flaws, much like a seasoned doctor might recognize the faint murmur of an ailing heart. He paused in front of a small, nondescript access panel. It was positioned low to the ground, almost at ankle height, strategically placed in a spot that was easily overlooked, particularly by anyone not specifically looking for it. It was partially obscured behind a stack of forgotten cleaning supplies, empty spray bottles, a worn dustpan, a coil of industrial-strength rope. No one, absolutely no one, in their right mind would think to look there for a solution to a high-tech elevator malfunction. But Mr. Silas knew. He had cleaned every single inch of this magnificent building, from the highest penthouse suite to the deepest sub-basement. He had seen this particular panel countless times during his meticulous rounds. It was etched into his mental map of the building. Mr. Kaido, his curiosity now outweighing his skepticism, walked over to Mr. Silas, peering over his shoulder. "Mr. Kaido said, "That's just a diagnostic port, Mr. Silas. A minor one. We've already thoroughly checked the main diagnostic hub on the central server. It didn't register anything out of the ordinary, apart from the overarching, system-wide shutdown." His tone was still tinged with polite disbelief, but a sliver of intrigue had begun to crack his professional facade. Mr. Silas, without a word, knelt down slowly, his aged knees creaking softly. He carefully pushed aside a forgotten bucket and a coil of rope, revealing the panel more fully. It was secured by 4 small, almost invisible, flathead screws. He reached a weathered hand into the deep pocket of his overalls. From its depths, he produced a worn, but meticulously maintained, multi-tool. It was old, utilitarian, and utterly devoid of any high-tech features. But it was his trusted companion, a silent witness to countless minor repairs and unexpected fixes over the decades. It had never failed him. He selected a small, flathead screwdriver bit from the multi-tools array of attachments. With practiced, unhurried movements, he began to unscrew the panel. The engineers, their initial skepticism warring with a growing sense of bewilderment, exchanged incredulous glances. Miss Eris, who had followed closely, watched from a slight distance, her arms still crossed, a fragile smirk still hovering on her lips. She was poised, ready to unleash another wave of scathing laughter, ready to reiterate her conviction that he was merely wasting precious time. She was waiting for him to fail, to confirm her preconceived notions. The screws came out with surprising ease, a testament to Mr. Silas's delicate touch and long experience. He carefully pried open the panel. Inside, a tangle of wires lay exposed, a miniature spaghetti junction of electrical connections. Most of them were thick, well-insulated, and neatly bundled. But one particular wire, thin and distinctly red, seemed to immediately draw the eye. It looked out of place. It was barely visible, running precariously along the very bottom of the casing, almost hugging the metal. And it was loose. Its connection, meant to be secure, was frayed, almost severed. It looked as if it had been tugged at, perhaps by a carelessly swung cleaning cart, or perhaps by an absent-minded kick from a passing foot during maintenance. It was a subtle, almost imperceptible flaw. Mr. Silas pointed to it with a gnarled finger, his voice calm, devoid of any "I told you so" smugness. Mr. Silas said, "This, Mr. Kaido is the auxiliary power line to the emergency brake override system. It's typically a redundant safety feature, a backup for the backup. But it appears it wasn't secured properly during the last routine maintenance check. Mr. Kaido leaned in, his face now inches from the exposed wiring. His eyes widened, a dawning horror spreading across his features as he processed what Mr. Silas had just said. He saw what Mr. Silas saw. The thin red wire, indeed loose, almost completely disconnected. It had been pulled just enough to break the circuit, to lose contact, but not so much that it would appear completely severed to a casual glance. It was a subtle flaw, a tiny, yet critically important, point of failure. Mr. Kaido stammered, his professional composure crumbling. Mr. Kaido said, "But how? Our main diagnostic system, the central hub, should have absolutely picked up an open circuit on a vital line like this. It's supposed to be foolproof." Mr. Silas shook his head slowly, patiently. Mr. Silas said, "Sometimes, Mr. Kaido, the smallest failures are the best at hiding from the biggest, most complex systems. This particular line, it only carries a trickle of power. Just enough, you see, to trip the override signal. It doesn't carry enough current for a full power loss alarm to trigger in the main system. It just sends a false signal. A ghost signal, if you will. It tells the main brain that the emergency brakes are already engaged, even when they're not fully or correctly engaged. It essentially tricks the elevator into believing it's protecting passengers from a false brake failure, causing it to freeze solid." His explanation, delivered in simple, unpretentious language, was startlingly clear. It was concise, and with a sudden, irrefutable logic. It made perfect, terrifying sense. The highly intelligent, sophisticated elevator system, designed to protect its occupants at all costs, was reacting to an imagined threat. It believed its brakes were failing, so it had locked itself down in a state of self-preservation. But the brakes themselves were perfectly functional. The entire, multi-billion-dollar structure had been paralyzed by a single, tiny, loose wire. A ghost in the machine, triggered by a phantom problem. Mr. Kaido stared at the offending red wire, then slowly, almost reverently, looked up at Mr. Silas with a newfound respect, a profound sense of awe replacing his earlier skepticism. Mr. Kaido said, "You mean, the elevator thinks it's in a free fall? It thinks it's protecting itself, so it's locked itself down completely, even though it's perfectly safe and stable?" Mr. Silas nodded, a small, knowing smile touching the corners of his lips. Mr. Silas said, "Precisely, Mr. Kaido. The system, in its advanced intelligence, is almost too smart for its own good. It's a self-preservation mechanism, yes, but it's been triggered by a problem that isn't truly there. A problem caused by a loose connection that the big systems just couldn't see." Miss Eris had, by now, walked much closer. Her initial smirk had completely vanished, replaced by an expression of pure, unadulterated shock. Her eyes were fixed, unblinking, on the thin red wire. She had heard Mr. Silas's simple, elegant explanation. The brutal, undeniable logic of it hit her with the force of a physical blow. Her expensive, advanced, cutting-edge technology, the pride of her company, had been brought to a screeching, humiliating halt by a wire as thin and insignificant as a piece of thread. And a janitor, a man she had scorned and dismissed as utterly irrelevant, had not only found it but understood its profound significance. Mr. Silas, without fanfare, took a small pair of needle-nose pliers from his trusty multi-tool. With an almost surgical precision, he carefully, gently, reconnected the red wire. He made sure the connection was firm, twisting it tight with a practiced hand. Then, from another pocket in his overalls, he produced a well-used roll of black electrical tape. He meticulously wrapped the newly secured connection, ensuring it was thoroughly insulated and would not come loose again. He double-checked it, a testament to his ingrained dedication to thoroughness. The entire process, from opening the panel to securing the wire, had taken him less than 2 minutes. He stood up slowly, a faint creak echoing from his knees. He brushed a few specks of dust from his faded overalls. He looked at Mr. Kaido, his expression calm and expectant. "Mr. Silas said, try it now, Mr. Kaido. The main system should reset itself now that the false signal has been removed." Mr. Kaido, roused from his stunned silence, practically sprinted back to the main control panel. His fingers, trembling slightly, hovered over the buttons. He pressed the illuminated reset button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a low, steady hum filled the previously silent air. A small green light on the panel flickered once, twice, then stayed steady, burning brightly. A moment later, a voice, clear and strong, crackled over the intercom system, echoing through the lobby. A voice said, "This is the Sky Lounge. The elevator is moving. We're on our way up. Thank goodness." A spontaneous cheer erupted from the small, anxious crowd that had gathered. The suffocating tension broke like a dam, releasing a flood of relief. Miss Eris stood absolutely frozen, a statue of disbelief. Her face was deathly pale. The mocking laughter of moments ago had transformed into a deafening, ringing silence in her ears. She looked from the now brightly lit, moving elevator status display to Mr. Silas. The janitor stood quietly, coiling his electrical tape, meticulously putting his multi-tool back into his pocket. He was just a janitor again, blending into the background. But in those few minutes, he had not only saved her multi-billion-dollar deal, he had saved her company's reputation. And he had done it in less than 5 minutes, proving his quiet certainty. The engineers, who had spent agonizing minutes poring over complex diagrams and high-tech readouts, were utterly stunned. Their expensive equipment, their years of training, their collective expertise, none of it had shown them the simple, human error. Mr. Silas's solution was elegant in its simplicity. It was precise, it was undeniably effective, and it was absolutely, profoundly stunning. A profound silence, thick and heavy, settled over the grand lobby, broken only by the triumphant hum of the now moving elevator and the quiet, relieved gasps of the onlookers. Miss Eris remained a statue, her earlier arrogance shattered into a million pieces. The distant cheers of relief from the crowd, from the investors now safely ascending, seemed to fade, unable to penetrate the thick wall of her stunned disbelief. She looked at Mr. Silas, the janitor, who stood calmly, meticulously coiling his electrical tape, as if he had merely wiped away a minor smudge, not averted a corporate catastrophe. His gaze, when it briefly met hers, was not one of triumph or self-satisfaction, but simply patient, observing. Mr. Kaido, the head engineer, his face a mixture of awe and profound shame, rushed back to the small access panel. He carefully, almost reverently, examined the reconnected wire. He traced its path with a trembling finger. He pulled out his sophisticated tablet, a device that had failed him so miserably moments before, and scrolled through the complex schematics. There it was, the thin red wire, part of a crucial, yet easily overlooked, auxiliary override system. His face registered a dawning horror, a sickening realization. He simply could not believe that such a tiny, seemingly insignificant flaw had completely stumped his entire, highly trained team. He, the man responsible for designing and overseeing these complex systems, had been utterly outsmarted by a loose connection and an old janitor. The irony was brutal. Mr. Kaido turned to Mr. Silas, his voice barely above a whisper, laced with genuine humility. Mr. Kaido said, "Mr. Silas, how How did you know? We had dozens of sensor readings, hundreds of data points. Our diagnostics are considered state-of-the-art, the best in the world. How did you pinpoint this single, tiny, almost invisible wire? He was genuinely baffled, humbled. Mr. Silas looked around the bustling lobby, then back at Mr. Kaido, choosing his words with care, simplifying them so they would be easily understood, devoid of jargon. Mr. Silas said, I clean this building every single day. Mr. Kaido, I've been a janitor, a caretaker, for almost 40 years now. I've had the privilege of working in so many buildings. Old ones, new ones, towering skyscrapers, quaint historical structures. And every single building, every single machine within them, they all have their own unique sounds. Their own breathing patterns, if you will. He paused, allowing his words to sink in, to resonate with the engineers, now gathering around, listening intently. Mr. Silas said, when that elevator first lurched, it wasn't the sound of a total mechanical collapse. It was too soft for that, too gentle. It was the sound of something being interrupted, not fundamentally broken, like a faint hiccup in its steady rhythm. And I specifically noticed the light on the control panel. It was flickering, not completely extinguished. A full power break, a real problem, would show a dead light. A flicker, however, usually signifies a bad connection, a signal that's trying to get through but keeps failing, keeps cutting out. He continued, his voice calm and steady, each word carrying the weight of decades of practical experience. Mr. Silas said, most engineers, you see, they are trained to look at the big picture. The main power grids, the central computer processors, the heavy hydraulic systems. They are taught to implicitly trust the sensors to tell them everything they need to know. But sometimes, Mr. Kaido, the sensors can lie. Or, more often, they simply can't detect the tiny, subtle details that can bring an entire system down. This particular wire, it's just a signal line. A thin, delicate messenger, carrying only information, not heavy power. It doesn't carry enough current to trigger a full power loss alarm in the main system. It just sends a false message to the brain. A false message that emphatically states, emergency brakes are fully engaged, shut down everything else for safety, even when they aren't. The engineers, who had now formed a silent semicircle around Mr. Silas, listened in stunned, respectful silence. Their faces reflected a dawning, almost painful, understanding. They had been too narrowly focused on the complex, on the grand, intricate design, to truly perceive the humble, undeniable truth. Their training had conditioned them to seek out dramatic, catastrophic failures, not subtle, almost imperceptible glitches caused by a single loose wire. Their expensive degrees, their years of theoretical knowledge, had failed them where practical observation had triumphed. Miss Aris finally stirred. She walked slowly, deliberately, towards Mr. Silas. The click of her high heels, usually sharp and assertive, now seemed muffled, almost hesitant, on the polished marble. Her perfect posture, once so rigid and imposing, seemed to soften, to lose some of its defiant edge. Her eyes, usually piercing and filled with unwavering authority, now held a flicker of something new and unfamiliar, profound respect, and perhaps a deep, unsettling hint of shame. She had laughed at him. She had dismissed him as irrelevant. She had completely, utterly underestimated him. And he, the humble janitor, had single-handedly saved her, her company, and her reputation. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow. She stopped directly in front of him. For a long moment, she seemed utterly unsure of what to say. The woman who commanded boardrooms, who effortlessly wielded immense corporate power, found herself speechless before a quiet, unassuming janitor. The roles had been dramatically reversed. Miss Eris's voice, when it finally came, was softer, more fragile than anyone present had ever heard it. Miss Eris said, "Mr. Silas, I genuinely don't know what to say. I owe you a profound apology. My behavior earlier was completely unacceptable, and I am truly sorry. Your insight, your knowledge, it's truly, utterly remarkable. You saved our multi-billion-dollar deal. You saved our company's reputation. You saved this entire launch." Her words were heartfelt, devoid of any pretense. Mr. Silas offered a slight, almost imperceptible nod. He did not boast. He did not demand praise or recompense. He simply accepted her apology, her words of gratitude. He had merely done his job. He had identified a problem, and he had fixed it. That, for him, was satisfaction enough. His quiet dignity shone brighter than any spotlight. Miss Eris continued, her voice gaining a little strength, but remaining profoundly humble. Miss Eris said, "But how did you know, specifically, about that auxiliary power line? Was it just the subtle sound and the flickering light that tipped you off?" She needed to understand, to grasp the full extent of his unique perspective. Mr. Silas replied, his voice still gentle, still calm. Mr. Silas said, "Partially, Miss Eris. But also, during my routine rounds, I had often noticed that particular access panel was frequently left slightly ajar after your engineering team had completed their maintenance. And sometimes, a cleaning cart, or perhaps even a delivery trolley, would accidentally bump against that specific wall. It was just a small observation, you understand. A tiny, seemingly insignificant detail that just happened to stick in my mind, a little piece of information that registered in my daily routine. It was a powerful testament to his diligent observation, his unwavering attention to the mundane, his silent, humble dedication, while others, engrossed in their important thoughts and complex calculations, walked blindly past these small, crucial details. Mr. Silas saw everything. He perceived the small, often tedious things that quietly held the entire grand structure together. He recognized the potential for disaster in the subtle nuances, the overlooked imperfections. He saw the heart of the building, not just its shining facade. Miss Eris looked at him for a long, reflective moment. She no longer saw just a janitor in faded overalls. She saw a man of immense practical experience, deep, intuitive wisdom, and an almost superhuman attention to detail. She had judged a book by its cover, had been blinded by titles and appearances. She had made a terrible, potentially catastrophic, mistake. And in that moment, she learned a profound, invaluable lesson about true value and hidden expertise. The investors, having finally been ushered into the magnificent Sky Lounge, were quickly informed of the brief, unexpected delay and the remarkably swift resolution. They were, predictably, immensely impressed by the efficiency and speed with which the problem had been identified and fixed. The multi-billion-dollar deal, after a tense moment of near collapse, was formally signed. The grand opening proceeded as planned, the initial disaster swiftly fading into a minor anecdote. But the real story, the one that truly resonated with everyone who had witnessed it, was not about the gleaming tower or the gargantuan deal. It was about the janitor. It was about Mr. Silas. It was about the quiet wisdom that had saved the day. Later that very same day, as the initial excitement of the grand opening began to wane, Miss Eris sought out Mr. Silas once more. She found him deep in the basement, meticulously sweeping a quiet, dimly lit corridor, a forgotten hero resuming his humble duties. She approached him with a completely different kind of respect now, her earlier disdain replaced by genuine deference. She no longer saw a mere janitor. She saw a profoundly insightful problem solver, a man whose quiet, understated wisdom had utterly outshone her own celebrated acumen. Miss Eris said, "Mr. Silas, I wish to formally apologize to you again." And more importantly, I want to offer you a brand new role within Pinnacle Industries. A position specifically created for you. Chief Building Systems Analyst. It would involve overseeing all maintenance protocols, identifying potential issues and structural anomalies before they have the chance to escalate into full-blown crises. You would report directly to me, Mr. Silas. And your salary, of course, would be a reflection of your truly invaluable contribution today and your undeniable expertise. Mr. Silas, slowly, deliberately, put down his broom. He looked at Miss Eris, a small, knowing smile beginning to play on his lips, a twinkle in his kind, aged eyes. He had never actively sought wealth, power, or recognition. He had always found a deep, quiet satisfaction in his work, in the simple act of keeping things clean, orderly, and well-maintained. But he saw the absolute sincerity in her eyes. He recognized that she had, indeed, learned her lesson. He saw that she no longer viewed him as just a janitor, an expendable part of the background. Mr. Silas said, Miss Eris, I sincerely appreciate the offer. It's a very generous, a very kind offer indeed. He paused, a long moment of contemplation stretching between them. He had spent his entire adult life in quiet, humble service. He had found a profound sense of dignity in his unassuming role. This new role, with its corporate title and executive responsibilities, would represent a massive, seismic shift in his life, a dizzying ascent from the basement to the boardroom. But he also saw the clear opportunity to make a genuinely significant difference, to utilize his unique eye and deep understanding of the building to prevent such incidents from ever happening again. He could truly use his profound, practical knowledge to ensure the smooth, uninterrupted operation of the entire structure. Miss Aris waited patiently, respectfully. She understood that this was an enormous decision for him, a life-altering choice. She knew, implicitly, that she had to earn his trust, to prove that her offer was genuine, born of true respect, not just fleeting gratitude. Mr. Silas finally looked up, his smile broadening slightly, a hint of mischievousness in his gaze. Mr. Silas said, I will accept your offer, Miss Eris. But I have one condition. Miss Eris's eyebrows rose slightly in surprise. She was intrigued, genuinely curious. Miss Eris said, Any condition, Mr. Silas. Please, name it. Mr. Silas said, I still get to keep my mop and bucket, Miss Eris. Sometimes, you see, you just need to walk the halls yourself, with no particular agenda, no specific problem to solve. To truly know a building, to understand its pulse, you have to feel it from the ground up, from the inside out. Miss Eris laughed, a genuine, warm, utterly unforced laugh this time. It was a sound devoid of any malice or sarcasm, a stark contrast to her earlier, cruel mirth. Miss Eris said, Deal, Mr. Silas. Absolutely deal. And so, Mr. Silas, the quiet, overlooked janitor, became a pivotal figure, a respected and indispensable member of Pinnacle Industries. His remarkable story swiftly evolved into a company legend, a powerful, enduring reminder that true value, profound expertise, and undeniable genius often reside in the most unexpected places. He had taught them all a valuable lesson, that sometimes, the greatest wisdom and the most effective solutions come not from prestigious degrees or lofty titles, but from years of silent, meticulous observation, from knowing the very heart and soul of a machine, from intimately understanding the subtle whispers and unseen rhythms of a building. He had, quite literally, taught them humility. He had taught them respect, and he had, most importantly, shown them that laughter, especially when directed at another's perceived inferiority, was often merely the sound of one's own ignorance. The lesson for Miss Eris was not fleeting. It was deep, profound, and etched permanently into her very being. She learned, with a humility she hadn't known she possessed, to listen to every voice, no matter how quiet, no matter how seemingly insignificant. She learned to look far beyond the superficiality of appearances, beyond job titles and expensive suits. She understood, with newfound clarity, that every single person, in every single role, held valuable knowledge, unique perspectives, and untapped wisdom that could be crucial to the success of her enterprise. Her company, Pinnacle Industries, began to thrive not just on the brilliance of its technology and the sharpness of its business strategies, but on the rich, diverse tapestry of wisdom gleaned from its entire, newly appreciated team. And at the quiet heart of it all was Mr. Silas, the janitor who had fixed the seemingly unfixable, the man who saw the smallest, most crucial details that everyone else, blinded by their own preconceptions, had missed. The man who taught everyone around him that true strength and profound intelligence often wore faded blue overalls and carried a simple mop. His presence in the high-stakes executive meetings, a quiet man with kind, knowing eyes, was a constant, living reminder. It was a tangible, breathing testament that genuine expertise doesn't always come adorned with a fancy title or a booming, authoritative voice. It comes, instead, from knowing, truly, deeply knowing, the small, intricate workings of the world around you. It comes from an innate respect for the papal rastivore, practical, from endless patience, and from the quiet dignity of a lifetime spent observing, absorbing, and understanding. He brought a rare sense of grounded wisdom to the often frenetic, high-flying corporate world. He made them better. He made them more insightful. He made them, ultimately, more human. His quiet solution, stemming from a lifetime of overlooked observations, had not only saved an elevator, but had subtly, yet profoundly, transformed an entire company culture. He often still walked the vast, gleaming halls, his familiar mop and bucket nearby, not necessarily for cleaning, but simply observing, listening, and quietly knowing. It was his ritual, his way of staying connected to the very pulse of the building. Miss Eris, now a changed leader, made sure Mr. Silas's new, dedicated office was conveniently located directly next to hers. She insisted that his opinions and insights be heard first, given the highest priority, in any discussion pertaining to building operations, maintenance protocols, or even new structural designs. She had come to deeply value his unique perspective, a perspective that emanated from seeing the building not merely as a cold, inanimate structure, but as a complex, interconnected system of sometimes fragile, sometimes stubborn parts. He was, in a very real sense, the guardian of the building's soul, not just its clean surfaces. And in embracing his wisdom, Miss Eris realized she had, perhaps inadvertently, become the guardian of her company's integrity and its evolving, more enlightened ethos. It was a transformation so complete, so utterly unexpected, that no one, least of all Miss Eris herself, could have ever predicted it, all sparked by a single loose red wire and a janitor's quiet, unassuming knowing. He often imparted his invaluable wisdom to his new colleagues, those very same engineers who had once scoffed and dismissed him. He'd tell them, with a gentle smile, that the most complex and seemingly insurmountable problems are almost always caused by the simplest, most overlooked things. Mr. Silas said, "You spend so much time looking for the big explosions, the dramatic failures, that you inevitably miss the tiny cracks, the subtle whispers of trouble." This became a mantra within Pinnacle Industries, a powerful lesson embedded in their daily work. His profound wisdom resonated deeply through every ton of the company, from the newest interns to the seasoned executives. Engineers, once solely focused on their high-tech readouts and complex theoretical models, began to pay far more attention to the small details, to the subtle, almost imperceptible sounds a machine made, to the unusual flickering of a seemingly minor light. They learned to respect the old, time-tested systems as much as they revered the cutting-edge new ones. They understood, finally, that the grandest, most innovative design was only as strong, only as reliable, as its weakest, most humble component. Mr. Silas, through his quiet example, made them better engineers, instilling in them a more holistic approach to problem solving. He made them more attentive, more perceptive, and ultimately, better human beings, capable of seeing value where they once saw only background. The investors, those powerful individuals who had been trapped in the elevator on that fateful grand opening day, often recounted the extraordinary story of Mr. Silas. They would share the tale of the initially laughing, arrogant CEO and the quiet, unassuming janitor. It swiftly became a corporate legend, a compelling narrative passed around boardrooms and business conferences, a potent reminder that true genius isn't always found in the corner office or emblazoned with prestigious titles. More often, it can be found wielding a mop and a multi-tool. It's found in the person who possesses the profound humility to observe, the innate patience to listen, and the deep, practical understanding to truly comprehend the intricate workings of the world around them, even if that world is just a building. The new building, the magnificent Apex Tower, stood as a towering symbol not just of technological achievement and corporate ambition, but of something far more profound: humility, unexpected wisdom, and the transformative power of respect. Its state-of-the-art elevators never malfunctioned again, not because they were perfect, flawless machines, but because Mr. Silas was there. His presence, his vigilant eye, his quiet knowing, served as a constant, living safety net, a human sensor observing everything, anticipating problems before they could even fully form. His enduring legacy within Pinnacle Industries was not just about fixing a single elevator, but about profoundly fixing the way people perceived value, expertise, and the limitless potential hidden within every individual. He had elevated everyone around him, not just the trapped investors. His quiet dignity, his understated brilliance, had shown them all the true meaning of expertise, the boundless nature of knowledge, and the paramount importance of unwavering respect for all. He was, and remained, the unsung hero, the quiet force, who gently, yet powerfully, reminded everyone that the most powerful and elegant solutions often emerge from the most unexpected places and from the most unexpected individuals. His story, his wisdom, and his gentle presence continued to inspire and guide. What profound lessons do you take away from Mr. Silas's quiet wisdom? Have you ever witnessed someone who was underestimated prove everyone wrong in a truly stunning way? Share your own inspiring stories and experiences in the comments section below. We love hearing from our community, and if this powerful story of hidden wisdom and unexpected brilliance resonated deeply with you, please take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel for more uplifting and thought-provoking tales, and share this video with someone you know who might need a powerful reminder that true genius can indeed come in any package, from any walk of life. Your likes, shares, and subscriptions are what truly help us continue to tell more meaningful and transformative stories just like this one. Join our community and let's keep these important conversations going. We want to hear your thoughts, your anecdotes, and your location. Where in the world are you watching from today? Let us know below.